And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Scythe, the Rise of Fenris. This is the third expansion for Scythe, and this is a very different expansion. The first expansion added 2 more factions. The second expansion added airships. This expansion, which is compatible with both of the previous expansions, has a campaign inside. Now, to be clear, this is not a legacy style game in which there's nothing destroyed in this box. There are surprises in here. When you open up this box, you're going to see, well, let me show you. So here's the inside of the box. Now there's a bunch of punch boards that come here, but I'm not showing those because I don't want to spoil anything. But you'll see that there's box A, B, C, D, and E. These boxes are going to be opened and they have playing pieces and things that you will be using over the course of a campaign. Now this stuff is a surprise if you want to. You don't have to play it as a surprise. And I should mention that in this review, I'm not going to spoil what's in these boxes. I have another review where I'm going to go over them because the stuff that's in these can be used as modules in a game. You don't have to play through the campaign. In fact, you can play through the campaign and then re-put everything back in these boxes and start over again. I mean, you kind of would ruin the surprises, I guess, but it would be perfectly playable. But each of these things can be played as modules, and I have another review that where I'm going to do full spoilers and talk to you about those modules. But this is all going to be done in a campaign setting. Now, the way that's going to work is, here's the campaign tablet. This is one thing that comes with it, and you're going to play through 8-game campaign. And this is a sheet. Each person will get a sheet. You'll pick a faction that you're going to start with, and you'll mark here each game that you've won. Now, only the person who wins episode 8 wins the whole campaign. Until that point, when you win whatever you do in a scenario or not, the winners might get some sort of bonus in that, in future games or whatever. You're going to keep track of your money, and it's going to be put over here in wealth. Now, wealth is not your score at the end of the game. It's basically money that you will spend throughout the game to get various things. For example, at the beginning of a game, you can pay $15 for a perk, which will give you a starting bonus. So maybe I want to start with an extra 2 popularity, or maybe I want to start with an extra worker on the board. I can pay 15 of the wealth that I've accumulated. So you can see here's one of the sheets that I played with, and you can see as the game goes by, I'm adding and subtracting from my wealth as time goes by. On here also is a triumph log. At the end of each game, you're going to mark X's on the different stars that you've put on the board. And if you fill in whole rows or columns, you're going to get $25 added to your final score at the end of the game. There's also spots here for infrastructure mods and mech mods. What does that mean? Well, you'll find out as the game progresses. So that's pretty much all I can really tell you about the campaign itself, except that as you open these boxes, you will find things. And the campaign is 8 games long. That's not going to change. It's going to be 8 games long. Some of those games are shorter than a regular Scythe game. I'm not sure I would say any are longer. So for us, when we played through all 8 campaigns, we played a 3-player game, 8 games through, and I would say it took us about, about 11 to 12 hours, maybe 13 hours, rather, to play through the 8 games. And so we did that over the course of 2 different days and got together and played through them. And so, man, okay, let's just jump to opinion right now. This is my favorite expansion for Scythe by a mile. This is one of my favorite expansions ever for any game. I love the campaign. Some of the reveals in the game were like, woo, that's awesome. And each time we revealed something over the course of the campaign, I was like, okay, now I'm flipping the book and look through the rule book and say, how do I use this as a module? And that was a really neat thing, because then I'd be like, oh, great. And so of the different things that are introduced in here as modules, I'm going to use almost all of them a lot. There's a couple that I might say, well, this I might use in one game and I might not use in another. There's a couple things in here that are pretty obvious. You'll see when you get to them and you're like, oh, well, I'll always use it. And again, you can check out my spoiler review for my thoughts on specific things in here. But man, and it just got better. See, I'm not the kind of person who really wants to play any game 8 times in a row. but I was extremely excited at the end of each Scythe game to be like, all right, let's try it again. Not to mention, keeps cementing Scythe as a game that I really, really like, and is just going to increase in time as moving up in the ranks of my favorite games for sure. But like I said, it's not Legacy, so you can put everything back, but it felt like a cool storyline. Like there's a lot of text in the rulebook that gives a story of what's happening. At the beginning, it talks about a great war that's happened, and one of the people involved in this war was Nikola Tesla, and so, it has this big background story, and again, this doesn't spoil anything, and then one day, he disappears, and the story begins. And that's just kind of fascinating to me. There's a few, not many, there's a few divergent paths in the campaign, and a few different things will happen, sometimes based on a player's choice. Some of the missions can end in various ways, again, based on player's choice. If you have complained in the past about Scythe, I think some of those complaints may be addressed in this very expansion. Now, we played this expansion completely without the airships. You can use them in the campaign. Some of the scenarios you can. It tells you if you can use them or not. But the airships, I thought, would have added an extra layer of complexity that we didn't need necessarily for playing through this, and it was fine. Although I read through and looked and said, yeah, the airships would easily fit into this expansion. That's from expansion number 2. But I'll tell you, the story's really well written. Each time I was sitting there like, okay, how are we going to do this one? I had to change up my play style. Now, inside, you change up your play style according to the boards that you get, and you're saying, okay, well, I have, patriotic board this time, and I have this board, industrial. How am I going to do that? But you are changing it up with that and what the goals of any particular scenario are. And I think at the end of these 8 games, I feel like I'm a much better Scythe player because of this. So there's not a whole lot more I can tell you because it ranges into spoiler territory. I will say this, though, coming into this. So let's say you're playing it and like, I don't know if I want to do the campaign. That's fine. I really don't think you're losing out if you don't do the campaign. I really think you can open up all the modules, look at the modules, and just start playing with them. That's not gonna. You're not paying. There's like a very few pieces in this game that can't be used outside the campaign. Most of this stuff can be used, again, as various modules. So if you just want it for the modules, this is amazing. If you want it for the campaign, also amazing. It's not just the modules haphazardly put together. Yes, each game in this campaign introduces something that becomes a module in the game. I think there's 10 modules, 8 games, and there's one module in here, which is a full co-op game, which is not in the campaign. It's just a full co-op game. But the rest of everything is included as you go throughout and find stuff. And I'm telling you, it does a great job at introducing you to this and to this and to this. And it's not making the game that much more complex. Again, it's kind of hard to talk about this without spoiler, but there's not that much more complexity in this stuff. And in fact, if anything, some of this stuff makes the game faster, turns the game into a game that you want. I better stop talking there, but man, it's amazing. There's a lot of pieces in here. If you were like sitting there and going, I have Scythe, should I buy this expansion or the first and second? First, second are fine. Get them eventually. Get this one first. That's how good this one is. This one here takes Scythe and goes, this is a game this is an expansion I'm ranking 10 out of 10. That's how much I like it. I very rarely give that out. And I look back at the experience that we had playing those Scythe games over the course of that campaign, and it's some of the best experiences I've had in gaming ever. I love this one. Definitely check it out. If you don't care about what's in there, you don't care about the campaign part, then go watch my spoiler-laden review if you want to see all that stuff. But if you don't care about that and you want to be surprised by this, you can get it. You might want to know about replayability. Like I said, you can reset everything. You'll lose the element of, oh my goodness, what's in that box? Because you'll see it. But you can play through it again. Both of the players I played it with said that they were going to play through the campaign again. I probably won't because I just want to play with all the modules now. Everything has modules. But I'm definitely doing that. This is if you like Scythe, must buy. Dice Tower Judgment, unbelievable.